we're going to briefly review the SPU utilization monitor feature of Aginity Netezza Workbench. Inside the Workbench, I'm going to open a SQL query, which is going to run fairly long, a couple of fact tables, and some complicated joins. I'm going to execute this with SPU utilization monitor. I'm going to get a message that Workbench is going to need to log on to the NPS Linux box, so it might ask for credentials. It did not ask for mine because it has saved those credentials. I've sped this up because the query takes a couple minutes to run, but you can see that we are skewing towards SPU number 1. This is a 4 SPU box, but this monitor works on any Mustang or twin fin running up to version 5.0.8. And as the query is finished, I can open up my chart here, and I can see chart by snippet. The first snippet, color blue, looked fine. The second snippet, color red, you can see has started to skew towards SPU number 1. And the other thing we can do now is take a look at the query plan that we've downloaded from the server. And this is a direct pull from the server with no interpretation. So snippet 2 is where our problems started, and you can see what we're doing right before we get there. We are downloading table and distributing, which means we're redistributing data. So what we're doing is we're redistributing that fact sales table. And this distribution is ultimately resulting in a skew. So we can go to the plan explanation, which is Aginity Workbench's interpretation of the plan, and you can see where we're highlighting the fact that we are redistributing this fact table on the item ID. And we do this a couple times throughout the query, and this is probably contributing to this query running longer than perhaps it should. So we'll go ahead and close the monitor and close the query and start to take a look at some of our data to see what's going on here. And there are some data analysis tools inside of the Workbench which we aren't showing here, but we'll show in other tutorials. So we're going to look specifically now at the fact sales table. See that it's distributed currently on store ID. And let's take a look at how that's distributed. Now on this 4 SPU box, this is fairly well distributed across all 4 SPUs. So store ID seems like a pretty good distribution key. Close that. Take a look at our fact inventory table, which was the other fact table in that query. We're currently distributed on item ID, which is what the optimizer was redistributing the sales table on. As we can see, item ID is not such a good distribution key in this, given the data that we've got. So inside of the Workbench, we can, with a few clicks, redistribute that fact inventory table. Go to Advanced, change distribution, and move the item ID over and bring the store ID in and click OK. It's going to ask us if we want to order the data since we're rebuilding the table anyway, and we'll say yeah, let's order on date to hope to create some zone maps. We're going to get a warning that what we're doing here is a pretty serious operation, so we just need to ensure we know we're in the right database, performing an operation that we want to perform. Now that that's completed, we can close it, refresh our tables, and take a look at the distribution now. Looks much better. So again, store proved to be an appropriate distribution key for this table. We can also, inside of the Workbench, take a look at the zone maps that we've created. So remember, we ordered the table on date, and we've got pretty decent selectivity on date there for a zone map. So let's open that query one more time and run it with SPU utilization monitor. I have sped it up again, but trust me, it runs much faster than the original query, less than half the time. And you can see practically no skew. We can open up the monitor in a separate window again. Take a look at the plan explanation. And you can see no more red until we get a little bit further down. And what we're going to find here is a warning that we're broadcasting some data. Take a closer look. We're broadcasting our dimension, our item dimension, and that's typically not such a bad thing. It is better than redistributing a large fact table. We're doing it again down here in snippet 8. No big deal.